Hey, Emily,
Hey, Stephanie.
you want to do a podcast?
Absolutely. Welcome to Cycle Chats, a podcast to destigmatize what it means to be a woman. This is episode 23, Transform with Mish, where we talk to the woman who teaches you to love yourself again, a woman who connects your mind, body, and spirit to empowered women herself, Mish. Welcome.
That was actually, I feel emotional.
I mean, Stephanie can read hers as well, because what listeners don't know is that Stephanie also wrote the opening. So why don't we just do a double whammy today?
In today's episode, we are speaking with Mish, a female empowerment and mindful eating coach here to help you love yourself and gain the confidence to live a beautiful, full, fabulous life. Welcome to the show, Mish, again.
Listen, I feel so special right now. 2 openings for me. Thank you so much for welcoming me this way. And also thank you obviously for having me.
So my first question always, what made you get into this field?
So, it's quite a long story, but we have only limited time. But if I think back, I actually have always had a special sense for kind of the connection with mind. I've always been a person that had other people come to her and share their issues, asking her advice, and just opening up in general. And when I was PT, the other fellow PTs actually called me the agony aunt because I had clients coming to me wanting to spend time with me talking rather than training. I even had a client who paid me to have a chat with her. She was a lonely woman staying in London for studies and she just needed a company. So that was quite funny. But I would say what got me into this is my own experience. And as I started working with women on their physical confidence and physical appearance, what I noticed was that whilst their body was changing, their self-perception, their self-esteem, their self-worth was still quite negative. And whilst their body was changing and their expectations were kind of not matching the reality, I had to go deeper and I had to kind of look at why is this happening and how can I help these women? So whilst I was kind of looking at that and working with that, I got into NLP training for myself, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And then through an experience of having my own life coach, I got so inspired by the power of it and how it changed me at that time in such a short period of time that I was like, okay, this is my next step. I want to become a better coach. I want to be able to take these women further where they are able to find themselves, where they are able to, almost like reconnect what's already within them, to be able to empower themselves, to be able to decide what's right for them, what they actually want to do, and to take ownership of their life. And that's how I got here.
I mean, that's amazing. I love that because it's very similar, the idea of being something, but then also like people coming to you wanting to talk about issues and get advice from you and kind of being like seen as a therapist, even though you're not. I'm a teacher and I find that happens all the time. I always say I'm a teacher/therapist because I have kids coming to me all the time with different issues. Being an acting teacher, you're working through things with people and taking down walls. So I think the best people kind of have that side to them where people just kind of come to you for some reason. There must be something like about those people that you're just like a magnet to them, which I think is really beautiful because why not? If you can help them and if we can help them, then sure, be magnetic and cling to me. I will help you out, whatever you got.
Yeah, definitely. And what's funny as well is that only about a year into me being a life coach and working as a life coach, I suddenly remembered, it came out of nowhere, that when I was about 16, I actually wanted to be a counselor. But for some reason, I completely forgot about it. I got on with my life. Things happened. And I only remembered like a 1 year into my life coaching journey. And now I'm actually studying to become a therapist.
Amazing. Congratulations. That is, I think if I had a do-over in life, my mom was a social worker, and I think it's kind of in my blood to be like, let me help you, please. I want to talk about issues and problems.
I mean, it's like to exhaustion how much I love self-help and mental wellness, to the point where I'm like, God, and people are like, please, Stephanie, let's talk about something other than trying to like dissect the human brain. But people don't realize most of what you experience in this world starts up in that big, beautiful brain, is what I always used to say to the kids. So I was also a teacher. I would say, use that big, beautiful brain, because it's true. It commands everything else that's happening to you. You said something interesting. You said while people are losing weight, they're getting more in shape, they're still not happy. And that is the biggest piece of the puzzle that people forget. If you cannot look in the mirror and learn to enjoy what you're seeing now and along the way, it's never going to be good enough. So I really appreciate that that is something you put into your coaching, because it's not just about a hot body or whatever. It's about getting your mind healthy enough to say, this is who I am. I love these parts of me, even if I feel maybe sometimes they're imperfect. The mind is very strong.
The fitness industry, and whether it's a weight loss journey or health journey or muscle gain journey, is very misunderstood, because I think it's often perceived as you are working on something physical only, but that's not how it works really, because the self-image really is very separate from how you look on the outside. Your self-image comes from the inside. Whether your body changes or not, it really depends on how you perceive yourself, how you see yourself, what you think of yourself. And so that's why when I was working with women that were thinking, okay, if I change my body, suddenly I get to this place where I treat myself right, I love myself, I'm happy, and then it was not happening. Like, it was like trying to fix something, but with a tool that doesn't go with it.
I love that analogy. So when you're coaching, what are the questions that you like to ask to start when you first start working with someone?
That's a really good question. What I look at, or what we look at together, is where they are when it comes to their self-esteem and what they believe that they are or they're not, what they believe is their worth, and how that projects into their behavior. Then we kind of start with the self-acceptance concept. So I think a lot of people actually think accepting yourself means giving up on yourself. That's not true. Accepting yourself means that you're saying, wherever I am, whoever I am is okay and is good enough. Me working on myself is just for me because I love myself and I want to take care of myself. I want to grow as a person, and I want to make sure that I show up for myself. And explaining that and understanding that for the client actually changes a lot, because they're like, oh, okay, so I don't have to reject myself anymore. And I think that's very exhausting when you are in that habit of constantly going, something's wrong with me, I look XYZ, how do I fix it? You don't have to fix anything, nothing's broken. So getting to that place of self-acceptance is a massive step forward, and it's one of the first things we kind of start with. And then really it's all about the identity, the core identity, their core values, because often also people set goals for themselves that don't align with their values. So they think, right, okay, I'm gonna, I don't know, start my weight loss journey because I think I want to or should look like XYZ, but it actually doesn't align with what they care about. It doesn't align with what they find important in their life. And it's not going to work for them. But it also means that if they don't realize it, they're going to be on this very miserable journey trying to achieve something that isn't valuable in their life. And then it's quite a unhelpful and unhealthy cycle to be in, because whilst you are investing into something that you think you should be doing, your energy could be going into something that you actually want to be doing.
And your results will be better too. And I think people always feel like, oh, if you don't get out of your comfort zone and you don't push into resistance, sometimes that's healthy, but most of the time that's your body saying, we don't like this way of achieving this goal. Please find another way. So absolutely, you're not going to love anything you're doing if you're forcing yourself to go on the journey in a way that doesn't feel comfortable to you. Have you always felt confident? When did that transition, if not, when did that transition take place? And then add a little bit, Cherry, on top of that question. What's the greatest thing a woman can do for her confidence?
A big question for me. I didn't grow up knowing what confidence means or knowing what healthy self-esteem is. In fact, it is something that, considering my lifetime, I only learned recently, which, if you think about it, is quite sad. Spending more than half of your life in a place where you hate yourself and you wish you were someone else or you wish you were different. But without this experience, I wouldn't be able to today what I do, and I wouldn't be able to relate to the extent that I can relate to other women. So yeah, it's something that I had to invest into a lot when it comes to my energy and my time, and even just like facing the discomfort, like facing what was actually happening for me, admitting that this is how I feel, this is what I've been dealing with, this is the truth, this is the reality, rather than rejecting it and thinking, no, that's not me, that's not my case, and overcoming it. And what really, really, really helped me was strength training, weightlifting. So I started competing in powerlifting 5 years ago. I don't compete anymore. But that was such a life changer because it was extremely empowering. It was extremely empowering in a sense that I proved myself that I could overcome like mindset limitations, and I could push through fear, and I could face something that I was so scared of that I was gonna like have a panic attack. And then the competitions themselves, like, you know, they're a massive step when it comes to your confidence. Like my confidence went up immediately. Even though I never competed to win, I competed for the process and for the journey, because that was what actually made me grow. So I didn't really care whether I was going to win or not. You know, in a very short space of time, my confidence went really, really up, like it had never been before. And that is how I then started coaching other women, how to kind of use strength training to increase their confidence, to improve their self-esteem. To answer your question, what women can do to help their confidence and to increase their confidence, I think two things. One would be to put themselves into a situation that is challenging, where they have to overcome something they have been scared of, or something that seems impossible, and to just face it. It doesn't matter how it goes, but to just prove themselves that, okay, I'm scared of this, but I can do it and I am still okay. And if anything, I now can see that I'm much stronger than I thought I was, and I can actually believe in myself, which before I couldn't see the evidence for it for whatever reason. And whether it's training, whether it's traveling on your own, whether it's anything to do with your career, throwing yourself into challenging opportunities and seeking those opportunities as well intentionally, which is freaking scary. So it does take a lot of courage to do. But, you know, I think if you like set your mind to, I'm ready to work on this and I'm ready to be open to different ways of how I can improve this, it will happen. And so the other thing I would say is, it might sound like a no-brainer, but I think it's often neglected and not acknowledged. And that's what happened to me as well before I kind of got into the confidence building and self-esteem building. And that's like taking care of yourself, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Because if you neglect yourself, if you just like, I don't matter, I don't need this time for myself, I don't need set boundaries, I don't need to be healthy or eat healthy or move my body, it's not going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel like really crap, actually. And I think whilst it sounds like a no-brainer, it's often completely ignored. It's such an important step. And this is exactly what I do with the women that work with me. Like, I show them how important it is to invest that time into themselves, prioritize themselves, and I challenge them to say yes more to opportunities that will make them grow, and say no more to things that are not serving them and they don't have space in their life for.
You said just so many things that I'm just like
I'm gonna
reflecting
put it all
back.
on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I literally wrote down a t-shirt. Holy crap, that's so weird.
Okay, is it though, Emily? How many
No,
episodes
it's not
in?
anymore.
And
We're the same
literally at this
person.
point, we've just morphed into this.
It's just it's my hand, but your brain.
I'm gonna say that this has just been the theme of our podcast from day one. being selfish isn't bad. And people put this connotation on the word selfish as if you're being a mean person, a bad person, inconsiderate. That's not true. If you are being selfish in ways that serve you and your health for the better, then be selfish. And I love that you put that into your teachings, because I think women sometimes forget that our lives aren't here for the sake of making other people happy. We're not always supposed to have a smile on our face for the sake of somebody else's health and wellness. We have to do it for us too, finding those things that make you feel good and not apologizing.
I heard something amazing today that I actually felt like will be perfect to share with you. And it's from the book Untamed. It's about how to trust yourself as a woman, and it's about learning to be authentic. And the author said, we as women forget how to know and how to trust ourselves the moment we learn how to please.
But isn't that something, right? God, and you don't even think, as a woman, you don't even think about stuff until somebody puts that into your space, your perspective space, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, that is still something that I constantly deal with. So I normally, what I do, and like I said, I'm still dealing with this, and people should know, like you said, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So it's something I'm still dealing with now as a 28-year-old woman who's almost married 2 years. I will put down whatever I need to do for somebody else. If you need me, whatever I'm doing, I'll be like, sure, what do you need? Hi, how you doing? It's because I am so caring, I think, but then I'll kind of lose myself in a few circumstances when I've done that. And like I said, it's like an everyday thing. I'll catch myself doing it. And I'm like, okay, no, I need to stop because I do matter. And like my husband, Miguel, has been really, really great about being like, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. It's been really good for me because I need somebody else to be aware of it as well. So like he is almost training me to not do it anymore, which is good because it's learned behavior and now I need to unlearn what that is. But man, it is so hard to unlearn that behavior. And you were so right with the words that you said about once you learn how to please, it's just kind of all over.
What do you feel is the biggest problem you face when you coach? What do you feel now with the way society is and female empowerment? What do you feel is the biggest problem you face?
I wouldn't use the word problem. I would use the word obstacle or limitation. That would definitely be showing women that they can trust themselves and that being authentic doesn't mean they are bad people or women. I think as women, and especially at this time and age, we really strive to be strong. Yeah, really strong, resilient, powerful. And I love that. And it's partially what I coach. However, it comes with vulnerability, but we don't like the vulnerability part. We go, being vulnerable? No, that's a sign of weakness. I don't want that. And we forget that as women, we have this feminine core. Well, most of us will have this feminine core that is very much about being in touch with your emotions and connecting with your emotions. And that comes with vulnerability, and that comes with being able to feel and express. And I think often my clients have difficult time to understand that one doesn't exclude the other. You can be powerful and you can be in charge of your life or in control of your life. You can believe in yourself, you can be confident, and you can still be vulnerable, because to be vulnerable you need courage. So this is one of the things that takes probably more work than other things for the client to kind of overcome.
What do you do for yourself to feel powerful?
Where should I start? For me, it's definitely a matter of being true to myself. That's what makes me feel empowered. Saying what I believe, saying the truth that's for me, saying yes to the right things, saying no to the right things, and choosing what I am aligned with. And that's because, again, most of my life I spent doing the opposite. I lived to please. I lived to be who I believed others wanted me to be. I lived to even speak, think the way I thought I should have. And that was, oh my God, that there was so much disconnection and it didn't feel right. But I didn't know why. I just felt this disconnection, like I wasn't being myself, I wasn't being me, I wasn't feeling what I was saying or doing. And so prioritizing that now is my priority, because when I do that, when I follow that, when I hold myself accountable, I'm like, yes, you are doing what you want to be doing rather than what you should be doing.
I love being emotional. It's like one of my favorite things. Steph and I always talk about shower cries and how beautiful they are.
I almost cried during some of the things that you were saying, and I was like, hold it together, Stephanie, until the end.
But it's just, emotions are not a curse. They are what makes us humans. They should be celebrated. They shouldn't be demonized. If you're sad, then have a good cry. If you're happy, then smile. But don't be afraid to be quote unquote emotional. We have this new friend because of the podcast, Audrey, and she always says, and I'm sorry, Audrey, I'm not quoting you correctly, but she says, we didn't get the short end of the gender stick. Women didn't get the short end. We feel like we did a lot of the time, but we didn't. I think we got the big stick. You can do whatever you want. You can feel whatever you want. That's part of being alive, and that's part of being a person. And if you choose to bog down whatever you're feeling, it's just going to come back and haunt you later. Feel it.
Yeah, and feel it. And I also feel the need to mention that emotions are beautiful, but they can also be like little 5-year-old children and sometimes kick and scream and throw tantrums and run around and put crayons all over the walls. And it's okay sometimes to drop the kids off at grandma and grandpa's so that you can have some time for yourself. What I mean by that is, if you feel your emotions totally overrun you, there is nothing wrong with going to somebody like you, an empowerment coach, to say, how do I place these in a way that's going to serve myself for the better so that I can be more present in my life and the lives of other people who care about me? There's zero shame. And I think it's beautiful that there are women like you doing what you're doing, because we need more of it. You are lifting other women up based on your own struggles to say, I went through it, but you don't have to. Let me help you.
That is pretty much why I'm doing what I'm doing, because my experience, no matter how hard or ugly it was, like I said, I wouldn't be here today. I would not be here whatsoever. And also, can I just say, I love that our conversation is bringing up emotions. I really love that.
It happened to us last week too. We were talking to somebody and we were all like crying. We're like, what's happening? This has never happened before.
I just wanted to kind of add to what you were saying, Emily. I feel like we as women have so many gifts that we have suppressed or believe that are not worthy or not enough, that need to be kind of acknowledged. And like you were saying about you being very caring and wanting to make others happy, I can definitely like resonate with that, because I've been like that too. And I also had to work on finding the balance. But I do really think that that personality trait or that gift is not a bad thing. But I think what you have to kind of explore is, okay, the extent that I like to do this, or the frequency of my actions towards others. Is it serving me, or is it like sacrificing my own needs, and is it sacrificing my own happiness? And that was definitely the case for me, where I was like burned out and angry with myself for doing things for others. But I thought, well, I want to do them. I want to please others. I want to make others happy. I want them to love me. But I wasn't really happy. I wasn't really happy because whilst I was doing that, I was neglecting something that was equally as important, or if not more.
Like I said, it is still something that I am working on, because I think that gift, like you said, let's call it a gift because it is. The gift of caring can be taken advantage of really, really easily. That was something that I dealt with a lot when I was growing up. I think I brought this up. I don't know, Steph. I think we were having this conversation. But when I was growing up, I would have friends. They'd come over to the house, and my dad, being who he is, was very present. And after they would leave, he would look at me most of the time, probably 90% of the time. I would have a friend come over and say, "You may never see them again." And I'd be like, "Why?" And he was like, "Because they are taking advantage of you. They are treating you poorly." And he didn't want that for me because he was dealing with that, I think, himself, and he could see that I also had that quality. So that was huge for me. And now I live in this new life where I choose friends because I want to have you as a friend, and my friend circle is so small. It's so small on a hand, literally. And the rest of the people are great acquaintances, and I love hanging out with them. But the people that like I would go to bat for on a hand. And I think that's because of what my dad did at a young age. It really helped me to understand if you don't like me, that's fine. And I don't have to like you. And that's okay too, because we're humans and we're allowed to have opinions. We're allowed to not get along. All of that is okay. But I don't want people to take this out of context and be like, well, there's one way and that's it, because that's definitely not it. You should see each other's differences as gifts as well and highlight them and try and encourage the differences.
And this is a general, I want to be careful how I word this, but along the lines of no experience is necessarily good or necessarily bad. It's what you gain from it. It's the most important. So if something is really, really good, right? Good quotations. What about it did you gain from it that made you have that feeling? Now, opposite end, let's say you have a situation that's maybe not so pleasant. What did you gain from that though? Because perhaps you gained something bad from a good experience, so to speak, yet you gained something positive from a negative experience. So the two have to coexist with one another, and that's what creates the balance.
I totally agree. And it's also something very new in my wisdom drawer that I only learned last year from my therapist because of things I was going through. And she said, well, actually, nothing in life is good or bad. It's the meaning you attach to it.
Oh my God, yes.
You know what? Manifestation is powerful. Then send the universe some messages, yeah? Some requests.
We talk about it all the time because, this is still such a small project, the podcast. We just had the first listener reach out to us and be like, "Hey, I listened and I'm obsessed with this." And then she ended up writing a whole post about how one episode inspired her. And Stephanie and I were finally we did it. We took the first step of our plan. It's taken us a few months, but we finally had it happen.
But we've been talking about the journey, I feel at no point during this, and this is again, we go back to differences where it's good, the balance. So Emily and I think I can confidently speak on Emily's behalf with this one. I'm a very casual person when it comes to creative projects, almost to a fault. I need to be babysat in order to get things done because I'm like, there's no timeline, and I need a momager, and that's where Emily comes in. So throughout this process, Emily's like, this is where we need to be, and this is how we're going to do. And I was like, no, take your time, wake up, cup of coffee. It's I just was very casual about it. Now I feel like it's switched a little bit where Emily's more, she's still on top of things, very much so, thankfully, but she's kind of got to this place where she's like, ooh, all right, we finally are here. And now my journey of how do we get more of that has clicked in. So now that balance is switched, and that's going to continue to go back and forth like a stair stepper. It's such a wonderful process. Any journey should be a wonderful process, even in the hard times. So this leads into a question for you. Along your journey, your ebbs and flows, what did you find they were? From I guess this is the question I really want to ask. where you are now. I always do this, especially when I like a guest. I
Yeah.
just am like,
Stephanie
6
just like
questions,
she
all
asked
in
6
one.
questions in a row, and then
then I'll
I
sometimes
have to
answer it.
edit. I have to edit back because I edit these. And so I like cut Steph's first question to her third question because she doesn't allow the guest to answer. This happens every time. It's
Not every time, only when I really like a guest. Okay. So we'll cut it at the part where I say this leads into my question for you. What do you feel is different now than when you started?
Wow. Okay. That is a big question. That is actually a really good question. What's different now than when I started? Well, I think one of the things that's different, well, is definitely my confidence as well. And the trust in what I do. When you start something, you are just hoping that it's going to work. And you are hoping that, well, okay, I'm working with like all I know right now. And that's my 100% at that time. But when you look back, it's like, oh, I was just like at 30% at that time. So I think I've gone, higher on a scale in terms of that. I have such a high feeling of gratitude every single day because of the impact my work has on people's lives. I don't want this to sound like I'm big-headed or anything like that, but it's true. I just see that in my clients' growth and my clients' ability to make better decisions for themselves, feel empowered, take steps towards things that they would never even think of. And so that's a consistency now. Of course, that wasn't the case at the beginning.
You only have to make one little difference. I mean, on the record, off the record, but you're impacting our lives just by taking time to talk to us. There's so many things that you have said are like profound that I will think about for my weeks to come. So thank you. And it's not big-headed of you to have that confidence because it exudes. You can tell that you have gone through some ish and you've had to work very, very hard to get where you are, and you believe in yourself. And that is inspiring to me. I would say there are often times I don't. And I am very hard on myself and I don't believe in what I'm doing. Then I have to remember there's nothing wrong with loving myself enough to believe. If I can believe in someone else, I can believe in myself. Like if I can believe in the tooth fairy, I can believe in me.
I did definitely learn that in order to be able to give and show others they have the power and the ability to change either who they are or their life, I have to trust myself and I have to believe in myself. If I don't, I can't show you how to do that.
I don't want to keep you forever. We have 2 more questions and I need to get to them because I must ask you. So we were just talking about what you've learned through this incredible journey that you've been on so far. And I can't wait to see in a year and a half what your answer would be to that same question. So I need to know, what does women empowerment mean to you?
Women empowerment means encouraging women to do what they want to do, especially, and even if it doesn't match the expectations of society. That's it. Giving them permission to be who they want to be, giving them permission to be free, to do what they feel like is the right thing for them, regardless of what everyone thinks of it. That's what I strive for.
That's the goal of this, is to just show women that they can literally do whatever they want and be whoever they are, because we're all beautiful. We were all created differently. We are all unique, and differences are what make this world go round. So let's start celebrating those differences. So my last question, Mish, is what would you say to your 15-year-old self?
I really thought about this question, and I think I would tell her that no matter what she does or doesn't do and who she is or isn't, she is good enough and she's still worthy and loved. And I think that's the one thing I really needed to hear at that time. That would make a lot of things different for me. And I also think that's something that just we need to remind ourselves on daily. Yeah, no matter what you do, no matter where you are, no matter what happens for you, it doesn't change your worthiness. It doesn't define you, and you are good enough. In fact, your worthiness is your birthright. As a baby, you don't need to earn to be worthy. You don't need to earn validation. So why do we feel like we need to do that as adults?
I mean, we do this every weekend, sometimes during the week. It just doesn't work out. And every time we get to take some other little piece of the puzzle or the spider web, as I keep saying that we are, and we get to learn and we get to feel empowered and inspired by our guests. And we hope that the listeners get to be educated, empowered, and inspired. But sometimes there's just some of you that I feel like I could just kind of sit with for a week in the middle of nowhere and just talk your ear off until the sun came up and down again and again and again. And so thank you, because you gave me so many gifts through this conversation, so many tokens that I'm now going to take with into my life, because something that Stephanie and I think have said before, I feel like a different person from when we started this to where we are now. I keep like absorbing like a sponge all of these beautiful tokens of wisdom, and I'm then putting them into my life, and I'm seeing them change my relationship, not only with my husband, but with myself and with other people and with my family members. It's putting so much knowledge and love into my heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. Thank you. And one day I will come to London and I'm going to take you away for a week. I may put you in a trunk and just like drive a car to the middle of nowhere and not tell you where you are. We're going to sit down and we're just going to talk.
Where can someone who's listening to this find you? And do you have any fun, special projects or creative ventures coming up that the listeners should know about?
Well, firstly, I would like to invite them to my Instagram, which is at Transform with Mish. And that is where I post pretty much all my wisdom right now. I am looking to start small group coaching project. I really value the connection on one-to-one basis. So I can't really align with big groups of coaching. So yeah, that's something that I'm working on currently. That should be coming up soon. And it will be all about pretty much what we've talked about today. So working on the self-love, improving and building the self-esteem, learning tools that will help them to empower themselves, and learning how to take ownership of their life whilst embracing the feminine side, being vulnerable and not being scared of that, and just really owning who they are, owning what they want for themselves without questioning themselves.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day where you are to speak with us over here. This connection is key. We believe in it. We talk about that spider web, and we're just continuing to grow it and grow it and grow it. And it's just such a wonderful thing what you're doing. And I, like Emily said, I can't wait to see what your next step is. I'm excited for people to discover you as we have discovered you. And I just feel more, I don't know, I feel more empowered after this conversation.
I'm very zen right now. I'm just like, all right, whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's all good. It doesn't matter.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I love that. That's amazing.
Well, that's because of you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My God, it's like your presence is just so calming and so confident and sure. And I think that it's contagious.
I feel like my head's going to be like massive. No, thank you. Honestly, genuinely, like I said at the beginning when we started, what I've realized is I really find it just really empowering to have conversations with other women and their life experiences. So for me, this was very profounding equally. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. I love that. And like you said, the connection was special. Our gifts complemented each other.
I gotta say, thank you for listening, and we hope you sync up with us next time.